Welcome back, one and all, to the world's favorite secret game show, NODNARB'S CLOSET, hosted by the lowly degenerate EDAW'S. That's me. The show where we expose the secrets of unsuspecting strangers and make fact stacks off of their emotions. We were powered by the ATI Podcast, and those boys have given me a chance to take over their Thursday broadcast. My guest today is the illustrious Dr. COLECIFER 28.
Hello.
With all the Greek numbers you can see. Known for his stunning work with Blanjitsu and Gaussian oil miniature painting and overall handsome ass.
Thank you.
End of sentence.
I appreciate
Cole?
it. Thanks for having me, Brandon.
We have no problem at all, sir. Cole, please give us all that everybody is watching today your favorite impression of the Queen at the Kentucky Derby wave.
The Queen. Oh, you mean this thing? I can't. She's dead. So, like, my impression of that would be like, but
That's perfect. Now, my revitalized vision for this Nodnarb's Closet, and just give me a chance to talk to other people that I look up to, that I feel too awkward to talk to and have to force into conversation. So, really in this show, it's just to get more in-depth into the community that I've become a part of, get to know all these people, and bring kind of a light on a subject matter that I've really found dear to my heart over these past 2 years. And get other people to understand other people's wonderful work that they put in, a lot of hard work, whether it be creating formats for people to play, painting miniatures, all of that, all together. Even, I know that there was a Mordheim event not too long ago where somebody did a soundtrack for that entire event.
yeah. Oh, that was Basilisk. Hang on, I got a stack of tapes. It was very sweet. Basilisk Into the City of the Damned. This was pumping at this was pumping at Nemo with the weird stone green cassettes. Shout out Basilisk. Very sick dungeon synth going on the whole time.
Yeah, I actually bought that off of Bandcamp, I believe, right after, because after I found out about that, and I've used it in a few different times in my D&D sessions.
Super atmospheric. The dude's name, I think it's Trey. I wouldn't bet my life on it, but I think his name is Trey. Super nice guy, super chill. He just kind of like showed up the night before to the game store we were all hanging out at, and he was like, "Oh, I made the soundtrack," and it just everybody lost their fucking mind, and like it played for 12 hours or however long we were there. It was awesome. Still is. I still pump it down here.
No, that's amazing. I've listened to it several times since especially now that I am now getting into Gaussian oil paints. So you guys kind of brought me into that a little bit. I've just tried my first miniature. I'll debut that later on, but I'm a little bit nervous about it. We'll see.
Sure.
But thank you very much for coming on the show. I understand, we're taking a lot of your time away from your practice as a doctor. And I want to make sure.
Yeah, the practice has been suffering recently, so it's not that big of a deal.
That's unfortunate to hear, COLECIFER. First question that we have that others want to know about. So, Cole, how did you get into the hobby of miniature painting?
In earnest, I think like a lot of people did. COVID rolled around, couldn't do too much, and people were looking for a hobby to pick up. So a group of my buddies that I knew kind of like through work and mutual friends who all played Magic the Gathering wanted to do something different. So one of them said, "Hey, why don't we get into Warhammer?" And of the four of us, Matt, who's like my homeboy here in Ohio, Dead Matt, we're like the only ones that have like kept up with it. But I mean, I think I first started painting models when I was like 10, but like as good of a 10-year-old could, my brother and I had like one box of goblins,
Night
and like a
Globlins.
bunch of goblins, and a bunch of like World War II stuff. I think I've got one around here somewhere. But like, looked like absolute shit, and we just loved doing it, and then we never really did it again. So then there was like a 20-year gap, and then I just got into it, like 3 years ago. So I got into it to play Warhammer. I have not played Warhammer yet, and I've just like really been involved in like the hobby space and the community, and that's kind of where I'm at now.
Awesome, man. Wait a second. We have our first question. You have 30 seconds to answer this, Cole. Let me bring up the listener emails. Cole, again, thank you so much for offering your time.
Sure.
It has been a delight already. Cole, what intergalactical fictional TV show character must have sex every 7 years or risk insanity and or death? Your answers are A, Spock. Might be from a show called Star Trek. B, Rick Sanchez, Rick and Morty. Not a popular show.
Not recently, no.
C, Drax, Guardians of the Galaxy. You have 30 seconds. 30.
I distinctly remember
28.
a spot of Spock having a very sensual bit on Star Trek that was applauded as like a very progressive thing to do. I don't know much about the others. I'm going to say Spock needs to get it in.
Yes, he definitely needs to get it in. That is a point for COLECIFER.
Thank you.
Let's get back to these standard questions. Not to put you on your toes too bad or too high.
I can't believe I knew that one, because like most people either fall into the Star Trek or the Star Wars camp. I feel like I pretty firmly fall into the Star Wars camp, at least from growing up. But I remember Spock kissing a woman on TV for some reason. So
is that is that thing that you recall constantly that gets
it's
engine revving? Or
it's one of those core memories. You can't really shake it.
You can't really shake it. I agree. There's nothing like Spock going deep within that 7-year situation. What is Blanchitsu in your own words?
In my own words, so John Blanchett is and was a prodigious artist who I think really pushed like expressive artwork in sort of like a fantasy sci-fi space. I admittedly don't own like any posters of like his work, but like it's very much burned in my brain with like his sort of like Zorn color palette, like lots of reds, yellows, whites, blacks, and just how, like even early on, like there was sort of like this generic fantasy idea, and he pushed that into like, he has a term, Blanchitsu, so it's like it's expressive, right. It's loose, it's dirty, but somehow still refined, and it just really speaks to that sort of like grim grittiness that I really like about that, like this sort of corner of the hobby. In my own words.
Yeah, no, most definitely. Well put. I understand that the Hype Scum guys recently, I believe, met him. Or
yeah, Gage and Steve just went to England, and they went to Nottingham, and they met a lot of like Warhammer head type people, like YouTube heads and some other people in the space. They met somebody who had just hung out with John Blanche. Like they were just over at his house playing Mordheim. So tangentially, they met him. They were in the same like breathable airspace, which is still pretty cool.
Yeah. No, I really do. I guess it calls back to that and it's not exactly like that. But the grittiness that came out of the 90s with a lot of comic books and things like that, I think I kind of drift towards like the old 90s comics of Batman and
like
Wolverine.
Frank Miller, like Sin City, like even Ninja Turtles got kind of gritty for a while. Like I would consider like that sort of in the same vibe. Like taking that sort of like larger than life hero aesthetic from like superheroes and fantasy and giving them that sort of like gray area. I think that has a lot to do with Blanchitsu too, is like the idea of like the anti-hero.
Right. Yeah. And I think that within the hobby, we all can appreciate that type of, and even the exact opposite I appreciate, but I find myself just drifting to a thing that is not so perfect.
Yeah. I mean, like,
I want it to be messy.
We could go into like an art museum and like appreciate a classical piece of work and be like, damn, that's almost perfect. But then you want to go outside and like hang out with like the punk with a can of spray paint who's like doing a mural. Like there's just some draw
1,000%.
to that.
Yeah, I agree. This hobby is very DIY, so. So I know that I had already mentioned that I got into, and I'm going to say gouache.
Nobody really knows how gouache. I don't know.
Gouache. I mean, that sounds like a tasty squash of some kind.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like a pumpkin that I want to put in a pie.
We'll call it squash paint. You and I.
Let's call it squash paint.
That can be our first inside joke.
100% squash paint.
Right.
Squash that paint. But you guys kind of got me into it. Of course, we can't do this episode without mentioning Totally Not Panicking.
The boy, Matt.
I mean, yeah, I mean, he's kind of like a celebrity, definitely in the hobby, and it's it's great. We both joined Smash Bash this year. He really turned me on to that because whenever I was first getting in, just like anybody else, I think acrylic paint was kind of the thing. Like you just go to acrylic paint, and that's what you paint hobby or miniatures with. But how did you first get into squash and squash? Yeah.
Squash.
And oil painting as opposed to those acrylic paints?
I mean, like you and probably like a lot of other people, like when you first get into the hobby, you get a like a Games Workshop box, and it says you need these 3 Games Workshop paints to achieve this like look, right?
I hate that. I hate it so much.
I mean, I don't think. I mean, it's for lack of knowing, right? Like that's just what you think you're supposed to do.
Oh yeah,
and that's where you start. So like you can't hate on it too much. I think then the natural progression from there was like I started watching YouTube videos on painting, and I started like the algorithm on my phone started having like miniatures pop up on Instagram and stuff like that. And so I think like the first oil that I used was just an oil wash, and
right.
how that's very forgiving versus like acrylic, it'll dry all weird where it's more malleable. From there, I started working more and more oil into my work, and I just liked how forgiving it was, and I liked how vibrant the pigments were. And you can go get a tube of it from the art store versus like this specific GW paint, which is $7, and you might use it for one highlight or whatever. But as I got deeper and deeper into the whole like 28 rabbit hole, more and more artists were using things that weren't like sanctioned by GW. They were using oil and squash, and they were kit bashing, and they were using trash, and they were putting a lady's head on a man model, and oh my god, it's so like so controversial, but it's just like breaking the norm.
This is some bold these are some bold statements you're making right now.
There's going to be a lot of those.
That is too over the top for this podcast, but we're going to bring it back in.
Well, it's been fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will see you all after 10 minutes some other time.
I guess to... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I guess just to kind of wrap that up, like I started working more and more oil in, and at the point I'm at now, it's all I use. That's not to say I won't ever like dabble in something, but I'm starting to feel like I'm hitting a little bit of like I'm getting my own style. And
Yeah.
I like having like a limited palette. I like working with oils. It also like, I'll start to paint something and then you have to fucking let it sit for a week because oil takes forever to dry. So,
Yeah.
then, I think about it and like I work back and forth with it. And that's why I started using the medium that I do now.
Well, I just recently found that out because I literally, I'm going off of some of the tips and tricks from the community and things like that. This first time I'm using oil. And by the way, if you want to gouge Hobby Lobby, they are doing a sale right now where everything is at 25% of the original cost. So I bought a $40 thing of oil paints for $10.
I have another tip from Hobby Lobby, steal from them.
Yeah, constantly. And we condone, maybe not ATI Podcast. I want to put a precursor on everything, and they would probably say the same thing. Maybe my opinions and thoughts do not reflect that of anybody, whether it be Jesus or Jehovah or my wife. My wife can't stand me. My son is also on his way out of the house, and he is 3. Where was I going with this?
I don't know. The children yearn for the mines. On his way out at 3 is
he's done with me. Yeah, I am lonely.
He's gonna pack. Is he gonna do like the hobo bag over the shoulder and like walk to the playground and then? And I know.
I wouldn't know because I've never seen him. Just to keep things going, we got another question for you. This is going to drift away from the sci-fi. I'm going to need you to answer me this question.
Sure.
Which famous pop star burnt down their home gym through the use of candles? A. Harry Styles. B. Britney Spears. C. Taylor Swift.
Burnt down their home gym because of candles.
Yes, and they can be a multi-use candle, whether it be sex or scent-wise. Who did this thing?
I honestly don't know on that one. We'll go with Taylor Swift. Who knows?
She, Swiftie, you are not, because this happens to be the highest-rated pop podcast on the planet, and I know the answer to that, which is Britney Spears.
Oh.
Britney Spears had a quote. I had 2 candles, and yeah, one thing led to another, and I burned it down. I walked past the door to my gym, and the flames went boom. She's going through a hard time right now.
Now I know.
Yeah.
I thought she was on the up and up. Wasn't she?
Have you seen her dances lately? Those are questionable.
Admittedly not, but I wish her all the best.
I only know because my wife tells me, and it's terrifying. And I feel bad for her to this day. Favorite part of the hobby?
Not to sound like terribly cliche, but like
I hope so.
The community. It was like when I got into it a couple of years ago, it was just me, mostly painting models, eventually to play the game with, which
right.
I hope to someday. But then, I wrote an article for 28 Mag. They had put out a prompt and they were just like, miniatures of art. So I wrote an article for that. And I was really nervous because I wanted to like cite artists that I thought were really inspirational. And so the first person I reached out to was Chris, Symptomatic Chaos. And I was just like super nervous. I was like, dude, your work is amazing. Would it be okay if I cited your work in this article I wrote? And we've been friends since. Like, he's the illest homie. you know, they say don't meet people online, which is like sometimes an okay piece of advice, but like, he's like my number one hobby homie. We go back to like my beginning. We send a box back and forth between here and where he lives, and just kind of like pump each other up. And then through that, I met like Brian, who he runs Slug Wizard, and then from that, it transitioned into like me meeting like well, I guess it wasn't the Hive Scum boys at first. It was the Under the Dice with Steve and Gage, and then they do Hive Scum now, and they run the In Rust We Trust Discord.
Right.
Steve sent me a message. He DM'd me on Instagram out of nowhere and was like, "Hey, like, I like your dudes. Here are my dudes." And I said, "Hey, I like your dudes." And then about a month later, like I was on his couch, like in Massachusetts, just like ready to play some games. So I've met just a ton of incredible people through the community, and it's super supportive, and everybody like, you know, jazzes each other up, and like it just feels like a good, wholesome space. Like I met like Totally Not Panicking, like came to one of those things, Matt, and you know, I'm used to be kind of afraid of like meeting my heroes, but then you meet these people and like they like similar stuff and they like similar art, and like you work on similar projects. So like the whole like winning the game, you know, like winning a game of Warhammer is like so low on the list.
Yeah.
Obviously, like the artistry of it is like kind of what I do, and that's what I'm here for. But like the community surrounding it is like my favorite part of the hobby, like by far.
Right. Oh, good. I'm not a competitive person whatsoever, which is the reason why I play D&D, where, you know, I mean, competition is not key. So I get that. And especially, yeah, it's one of those things. It's weird coming into something where there doesn't seem like there's that much, like there's always welcome arms.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's strange for me because, I mean, it kind of reminds me of like the scene back whenever I was growing up, the music scene. And that's the reason why we had talked before about the punk rock feel of it. Yeah, it's kind of nice being a part of something that people are always willing to help. Your Goblin Hut, I mean, I remember reaching out to him about Dirty Down and being like, "Hey man, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing because I am making this rust too dark." And this guy is like fucking hit me up like immediately. Like it wasn't like it's insane to me, which makes me go back to what you said before, bringing up your heroes. The thing that they say about heroes is that they always have a dirty, dark down secret. So watch out for Matt. I don't know him, but he could be hiding kids in his basement.
I mean,
he could. I don't know. I didn't say it. I was just told.
I'll verify, but Matt's a sweetie. But I mean, I guess it's the flip of that, right? So like, you know, you may see somebody, you know, whether they're like a public figure, like an athlete or whatever, musician, and they're kind of like put on this pedestal, and then you find out they have some sort of dirt on them. Where like this sort of like punk rocky art scene, it's like people come off as very edgy and dark and gritty and grimy because that's the artwork they put forward. And then you see them in person and, you know, they're covered in tattoos and they're wearing black shirts and stuff. But then
terrible.
But the first time you meet them, they go in for a hug and they're like, sweetheart. Yeah. It's like that flip. It's like we present sort of like this like grim, evil kind of like mystique, but like everybody I've met in this space is like the biggest sweetie pie that I've ever met.
Yeah, I totally agree. My wife said it best for me, which was I took her to Roadburn. It's been a lifelong dream to go to Roadburn in Norway and see the Converge guys and all of that. Boris, Caven, all of them, and actually get to see them in Norway, which was, or Norway? No, it was the Netherlands. And she gave the same description, which was, you look at all these people and they're all in black, they all have long hair and beards or whatever, covered in tattoos, but they're the nicest, sweetest people on the fucking planet, that's what it's always been about for community, whether it be music, for me at least, and miniature painting. No.
I mean, the members of Mayhem, might disagree with you to a certain extent, but that was
fair enough. That was at the beginning portion.
It was the early 90s. Everybody was going through a hard time.
They were. What is your dirty relationship with kit bashing, and why is it so dirty?
It's filthy.
I'm sorry, I have to rephrase that.
Sure.
What is your dirty relationship with kit bashing, and why is it so dirty?
It's filthy, I guess.
Say it in that voice, please.
It's filthy.
Oh, you are sweet.
Come on, Brandon.
You are sweet.
I mean, it's fun and it's cool, and if you're not making something cool, then what's the fucking point? I guess
100%, yeah.
I mean, it's so easy, because you just glue shit together and then you prime over it and you would never know. So I like this guy, but I don't like his sword, so I'm going to give him a fucking laser gun. That's a kit bash. Putting a lady's head on a space marine is a kit bash. You are
right.
It's collage.
Again,
work.
Controversial. You need to call
controversial, sure, but it's collage work. I mean, you're taking a piece of this, a piece of that, and you're putting it into something that you like more than the original product, and through that, you kind of make it your own. But then, you can also push it a step further. You don't have to use mini bits. You can go outside and get dirt off of the ground, or a cool rock that you found, or I don't know. I find myself every time that me and my partner go for a walk in the woods, I bring a little plastic baggie to find specimens. Whether it's moth or a piece of trash or something, and I mean, you just glue it all together. So I don't think I've actually bought a model kit in a while. I do supporting independent artists who make their own stuff, and they do their own casting. And I feel a little bit bad about chopping those up, because it's
oh yeah, 100%. Yeah,
this is their artwork, so then I'll just buy two of them and I'll paint it the way that their vision, and then I'll cut the fucking head off and put it on a dragon or something. So
yeah,
it's
no, I understand that completely. I think it makes us sound like, and honestly, what this kind of comes back to for me, kit bashing is being a kid again, right? Because I always looked at my action figures whenever I was a kid and imagined something else being on them. But now we can make our own fucking toys.
Well, and it's I think the first kid basher that we were all exposed to as kids was Sid from Toy Story. So you had
totally.
You had the cowboy and the spaceman, and they were all just very clean cut and well kept. And then you had a baby doll with a fucking claw for a body.
That is dope. Connects. Connects, fucking attached.
The fishing pole with the sexy long legs.
Oh my god!
I remember even as a kid, I was I like those toys more. So
right
now I just do that myself.
I mean, Sid has some questionable daddy issues, right?
We're not,
but honestly, well, I mean, go ahead.
I mean, we're not going after the artist. We're just analyzing his work. Yeah,
we don't want to malign Sid from Toy Story. We would never want to do that. And Sid, if you're listening right now, if you haven't already taken care of yourself, stay with it, buddy. Go to therapy. Yeah, I never once. That's so enlightening to actually hear you say that, because I never once thought about Sid from Toy Story being a kit basher, but that's exactly what it is, right? So you have people that are not in the hobby that ask you about your work, I'm sure. Is it a little bit hard to explain? Right? Because they're always amazed by it, right? At least in my experience, it seems like they go, oh my gosh, look at that little tough of plant, and it's like I bought that. Like I tested. Like I can't believe that you did that. That's amazing.
No, I mean, I think just the nature of doing like art in miniature fascinates a lot of people just because tiny shit's cool, right?
Yeah,
So
I
like,
think tiny shit's cool. Yeah,
like you painted this little guy, and I remember the first Warhammer models that I ever saw. A friend's sister, when I was like really little, had like a whole group of like elves or something, and I like each link in their chainmail was like painted silver. And I remember like just being like, how the fuck did she do that? These are amazing.
right.
Like
Yeah.
now I know black, dry brush silver, wash of something dark.
Right.
Which, like, it still doesn't ruin the mystery to like people who don't know. But like,
yeah,
in
it's
terms
kind
of
of
like
insane.
in terms of like people who don't know what I do, like I don't know, like my grandmother Nana has a very loose concept of like what I do, and she can't see very well, but she's very excited about it, and she wanted a piece of my work, so I gave her a Sisters of Battle because it was the closest thing I could think of to something she would actually enjoy, and I was like, it's none in space, and she was fucking stoked.
Yeah.
My partner Kaylee like loves little stuff. Like she has all these little tiny like products. Like it's like a miniaturized version of stuff. And whenever I find little tiny things, she gets very excited about it. So I'm working on something for her now, which is like a little display piece. Most people don't give a shit about what I do, but that's okay. Like
yeah, I mean,
you know, they're like, so
I get that.
Like you paint dollies, and it's like, yeah, kind of. And
well, I
like,
mean, yeah, sure.
But I mean, that's the thing. It's like I could take what I do now and like, you know, if my dad wanted to see something I did and I painted like a Sherman tank, he'd be stoked on it. But if I showed him like a dude with a tentacle for a face and like a gun for an ass, like it wouldn't click. So I think the miniature
it would click and it would go boom.
That's true. I think people who don't know what it's about just think it's neat. And that's fine. So, you know, if they just think it's neat, that's half the battle.
Yeah, I think the thing that I'm thinking about is a little bit more like I see. So I have in my office, I bought a display case and I put all my stuff in there, mostly because I want to free up my office, my actual office at home, of you know, like my work studio where I can actually put things down, and I take a lot of pride in cleaning my area, and I if it starts to get messy, I fucking lose my mind. Maybe that's the military way of thinking, but it's just like I need things in their place or where I want them in their place. So I brought them to work, and people were like, "Oh, that's scary. That's scary. Wow, did that come from your mind? I have to worry about you." And I'm thinking the whole time, like, we're the nicest people on the fucking planet. Like, this is, I think there's darker shit in religion than there is what I'm painting right now.
Well, and you'd mentioned earlier, like playing D&D. I mean, I think that the creative use of the imagination has been like demonized through certain periods of time, especially when it goes against what might be like considered like the societal norm, right? So like satanic panic, people for like D&D, you know, like everything I paint is like covered in blood. It's very gruesome, very like evil looking, but like I don't do those things. Like I'm able to separate, you know, what I create and how I carry myself in day to day.
Right.
So some people blur those lines. There are bad apples, but like for the most part, at least like in this corner of a small hobby, like everyone's, you know, not like that. So
we're not Roman Polanski, is what you're saying.
Not last time I checked. No.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's good. Actually, you mentioned your Nana. She's sponsoring this episode of Nodnarb's Closet. Can we go ahead and put a graphic here, Barrett? Nodnarb's Closet, Nana. Do you have a ritual before you start or while you're painting that you actually like you do during? I know that I have a couple of quirks. Like I put on something. I know a lot of people don't like to have something on, like a TV show or whatever, in the background. I listen to Dropout TV or watch Dropout TV. I don't know if you know about it, but it's a lot of comedy troupes and they play D&D. I have that on in the background, but a lot of people don't like that. Is there like a certain thing that you do in prep or while you're doing it?
I always have music playing. Like I'm not able to like put like YouTube or like a movie on or something like that, just because I would be like super distracted by it. You're in my studio now. It's my basement. It's just a pile of stuff I think is neat and some oil paints kind of shoved in a corner. I always, well, not always, but most of the time I do my hobbying in the morning, like between 6:30 a.m. and like 9:30 a.m.
Yeah, I can
Not necessarily because like that's when I do my best work, but that's just when I have like a designated time to like, this is what I'm doing, right? So whether it's, getting it all ready for the next project or seeing how things have changed since they dried overnight, like I guess the ritual is like way too much caffeine. Like that's my biggest vice these days, is just like I'll probably have half a pot of coffee before 8 o'clock. I'll have music playing super, super loud. I'm not thinking about the work I have to do to pay the bills later. I'm just like, I guess, present in my workspace.
Right.
But I don't have to like turn the light on and off or like have everything a certain way. Like,
yeah, I'm not asking you if you're obsessive compulsive.
I don't think I'm like overly like anal about anything that I do, because everything kind of shifts and I'll clean and then I'll like work myself into a corner and then work myself out. So, and then if you like look at my work just over the past couple of years, like it's changed a lot, and now it's starting to be a little bit more like homogenous and starting to look more like, oh, that looks like that one, that looks like that one. So that's all just by freak chance. Like I'm not writing recipes down. I'm not trying to like replicate processes. I'm just trying to get like in that same mindset, I guess.
Yeah, we were talking before. It's very difficult to start getting into, a lot of artists in general, and a lot of artists in the hobby, we cheat and steal off of each other all the time. Which is, we always say cheat and steal. We're inspired by those things. And I think that once you start to get a grasp on what you're doing, and I don't know if I fully have mine yet, but you were saying that you're starting to get a hold on yours. And I can tell by the past several projects that you've done that it's starting to fit, I want to say a theme, but it's not a theme. It's a very, like if I saw your work, I know it's your work, which is a difficult achievement to find.
And that's like super flattering too, just because like, I mean, it's like any artist in their work, like you can see your imperfections like flat out. But when other people are starting to see like, like a little bit of harmony in your work, like that's like super reassuring that like I'm going in the right direction, right? So that's
I think that's that's the reason why I had you on the show, to be honest. Hey, so since you're a doctor,
sure,
is there any are there any tips that you can give me on this? This right here.
That looks great. I mean, you got 2. I think you could go for 3.
It's constant. It's constantly in my.
I think just breathing exercises. Lobotomy might help.
That's been. I think it's actually been approved in Texas now.
Yeah, I just up here where I live, Blue Cross Blue Shield won't cover it, so.
I mean, it's if Greg Abbott, that is, would get one, we would all appreciate that.
I don't know. Should I know who that is? Should I know?
He's the governor of Texas. He is a bigot and a piece of shit.
Learn something new every day.
Yeah, he's a cunt. Yeah, he's terrible. What have you been listening to lately?
I hate to be that person that's like, I listen to like eclectic stuff, but that's kind of the truth. I've been on a big like dungeon synth kick since the past couple of months. A lot of Hole Dweller, a lot of like chiptune stuff. Anything that makes me feel like I'm in a 1980s Nintendo dungeon is a lot of what's going on down here. I was lucky enough to pick up a couple of like old Dark Throne tapes. Like I love like old black metal.
Yep.
There's a dude in the space, sort of tangentially. His handle is 12 Koga. I don't really actually know how it's pronounced. He's based out of Spain, and he has like a black metal noise project called Vermes that I've been like blasting down here. Also included in the stack of tapes, I think I've got Fleetwood Mac, Phantom of the Opera.
Can't go up.
21 Pilot, Spooky Sounds for Halloween, a couple of noise projects from Terry, who's one of the Hive Scum boys, Stonejaw. He's got a couple.
The main host, I think, right?
I think
it's his microphones.
The podcast is kind of like his baby. Yeah, I think he's the one that footed the bill for all the audio equipment, so could be his.
Yeah, no, he seems like a nice guy. And honestly, I mean, it sounds like all those things that would get you in the mood to actually paint. I want to get to that actual, like I do sometimes, like I'll go on Spotify and listen to just not 8-bit sounds or 16-bit, but I'll listen to full on just dungeon core stuff that I would usually use in dungeon or D&D.
Which like I didn't even know it was a thing until recently, and it's like I would hear it, but I wouldn't be like, oh, that's like its own genre of music produced by like dungeon synth artists. And now Gage just kind of like blew that door open for me. So now I have like a whole dungeon synth playlist, and it's just like I used to play D&D. I think we all kind of had our foot in D&D at some point.
I would hope so. But
it's just like, man, if that doesn't get you in the mood to be creepy, I don't know what would.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We're a few years apart, but did you ever know about Horse the Band?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Horse the Band used a lot of that 8-bit like sound bites as something in the background or a sample in the background.
Right.
It's just kind of like I love that shit so much. And I'm starting to get into the dungeon synth stuff too, but I'm trying to get it away from as many podcasts as I listen to. I listen to podcasts more than I do fucking music nowadays, and it drives me fucking nuts, but I also love it.
I like throwing on podcasts though, like I started listening to like you asked me to be on here, so I started listening to like some of the ATI podcast. And then, like, obviously Hive Scum, Between the Bolter and Me with the Wire Brothers is also, like, a really
that's good to know.
Great, like, hobby. They've been at it for years. The three of them they do a blog. They do, they obviously do the podcast. They show up to, like, every event. And they're all, like, brilliant, like, a brilliant team. They all do something a little bit different. But they bring on all kinds of artists and people who are involved in the space. So, like, I used to listen to a bunch of podcasts for, like, just sort of, like, people hanging out, but I didn't know them. But, like, now knowing people and putting on those podcasts feels like I'm chilling with the home. So, like, I kind of enjoy it.
Yeah, I get that same feeling. I listened to Last Podcast on the Left, and I've been listening to Hive Scum a lot lately. I've been, no offense to a lot of hobby podcasts, but there's some that will be very drab and, just we're talking through this, and that works for a lot of people, and it just doesn't work for me sometimes. So Hive Scum is really, and I'm not trying to boost you guys up that much. I mean, I'm not trying to kiss your ass and things like that. But it's nice because it's kind of like the same community that the ATI podcast with my best friends that I grew up with have kind of cultivated, where we're just all bullshitting the whole fucking time, and it's just nice. I don't know, I have a lot of anxiety issues, so if there isn't noise going on constantly, I have to put on noise of any kind whatsoever. Sure. I'll turn on the TV or whatever else, and that's why it doesn't distract me while I'm painting. But yeah, so I need to get back more into music, and I think after this episode, maybe I'll start doing that more. I have a off-the-wall question for you. Why do members of the Supreme Court appear to be sucking our rights dry in a race to become Baron Vladimir Harkonnen in a plot to make us all dependent on spice?
Because once you've achieved the state of being a lich, you're undead, you're undying, and your only thirst is for power, and your only fear is that something will undo your undeath, something will end your mortality or your immortality. So once you've achieved that level of power and influence, I don't know that anything good can come of it. Because when you're at the top, all you see are people down below trying to get to where you are. So that could be it. They could be lizards. I don't know. I'm just a doctor.
Such is the spice of life. I mean, it sounds like. I will give a point to COLECIFER. What have you been listening to lately? Who would you like to name drop for their work? Something a little bit more obscure. Somebody who isn't always on the radar all the time. Somebody maybe that you've seen their work and you're starting to see that they're coming into their own. So don't mention that.
I mean, a lot of people within that sort of like in Rust We Trust community, there's just a lot of sort of, I don't want to say unsung heroes, because we all keep in touch frequently, and we're always jazzed about each other's work. But a lot of it, like Matt is obviously prolific. He puts out a ton of work. He puts out, he connects with other people. But then, there's a lot of people that I don't know. I don't want to say quiet about their work. They just let their work speak for them. So Evan, It's What Evan is another big hobby hero of mine. Also super nice guy. When you talk about
super nice guy.
Yeah. When you agree. Have you met him before?
No, actually, he was the first person that I actually ever reached out to. I just asked him, hey, would you mind doing a sticker swap? Because I saw his stickers.
Oh, dude,
I appreciated it.
Thick. Yeah.
I appreciated his work. And then on top of that, I saw a sticker and I was like, I see all of you guys going to conventions and shit like that. And I'm like, man, I can't fucking go. I'm stuck down here. And I see all of you guys swapping stickers and whatever else, which, by the way, get on that, motherfucker.
I actually just asked, my partner, Kaylee, she's super gifted at, graphic design and drawing. I'm not very good at drawing. So I want to she's done stickers before. I want to commission my soon-to-be wife to, make my sticker for, so, when I send stuff
amazing.
Anyway, wait. So It's What Evan.
Yeah.
I already mentioned Brian and Chris. So Symptomatic Chaos and Slug Wizard. He used to have a different Instagram called I Paint Tiny. Q Minis, Renzo, also an exceptionally talented kit basher and just all around nice guy. Dylan from White Tablecraft is also one of those first people that I reached out to when I started getting into like the kind of funkier hobby space. Who else do I want to name drop? You know, obviously, like all of the Hive Scum boys, like all have their own thing. So like Phil is super like clean and has like a great style, but like doesn't put his stuff out there too much. Terry puts little tiny like autumn leaves and flowers even on the most gruesome thing.
Yeah.
Gage just painted a fleshlight, which was
Yeah. That was honestly, and he talked about how big of a pain in the ass it was.
He sent me the other half, and it stained the box that it was in. I don't know what happened. It freaked me out.
Yeah, well, I mean, he probably sent you an additional gift, but I would say, yeah. So, you knowing me the little bit that you do, I showed my mom what I was putting into Smash Bash, and then she said, "Go ahead."
What was your piece this year? I remember seeing it, but I don't remember exactly what it was. What did you?
I was in the amateur portion. It was the shark with a.
That's right.
Undead on top of it and a throne and undead
Which
king.
is fucking sweet. Like, dude, sharks are
Thanks,
cool.
man.
And like,
yeah. Well, I mean, I bought it from Hobby Lobby, so my idea, So I mean, they actually sponsor this too. It's funny that you said that.
Cut that. Cut
that. Well, I mean, they sponsor it. They don't know what it's about. So I have made it my mission in a lot of ways. I did a giraffe that had a head from Loot Studios that looked pretty wicked, and I always tag them in my tag them in my posts whenever I get something from them, just so that they can see what I've created from their bullshit. But I saw like a plastic shark and I wanted to fucking make it and sculpt it, and I've never used clay to sculpt, at least recently. I did whenever I was a kid, but I forgot what the question was.
We were just starting to about like Smash.
I'm a bad host. I'm a terrible host. No, but I had sent my mom those pictures, and she was like, "What are you going up against?" And I actually sent her the fleshlight. And she didn't know what it was.
That's probably for the best. I mean, you didn't have to have that conversation.
Until I explained it to her afterwards.
Until you had the conversation, sure.
Yeah, I had to explain that. Like, me and my mom have a very, just let's get it all out there. That is a sex toy, and that man has made a model out of it. Yeah. And she disapproved and didn't talk to me for the rest of the year. It's sad. This is a therapy episode.
Oh, okay. It's starting to make more sense.
It's starting to all close into darkness. I've already maligned Matt, talked shit about him twice, even though he's the god of the hobby. And I've brought up Mom and shown her. Yeah. Now we're going to enter the kindness corner. Enter Betty White's face across my hands.
Are we actually going to have to kill somebody?
I don't know. I don't know. I have zero idea. But I would like it to happen. So we'll see it. I understand that you're 4 years sober now.
Yeah, and some change.
Awesome. For anybody that has been going through similar situations, is there anything that you can let them know that maybe others not understanding the situation wouldn't be able to help out with?
Shit. I think the
not to put you on the spot.
Yeah, no. No, I want to choose my words carefully because like it's kind of important to me. If you or somebody that you know or love are going through addiction. So my thing was alcohol. Like I quit drinking 4 years ago because like that's what I couldn't deal with. But I mean, it doesn't matter. Pick your poison. It's sort of the same message. I know you, and I'm not you, but
no, you're good.
I know that it feels lonely, and it feels like you may be the only one going through it. And it's very difficult to accept that you're not. So like something that somebody told me once when I first got sober, like, you suffer from terminal uniqueness. You think you're the only person going through this. You think that, you know, all of this badness is just you, when it's a lot of people. And a lot of people, like, the whole like program that I'm in has to do with like relating to other people. So different ages, different races, different sexes, different walks of life. We all share, you know, the same hell that we went through, but then we also share the same like come up. You know, we share the same healing process.
Right.
So, and again, like, I don't want to get like too serious, but like, it is important. So
no, it's fine. That is what Kindness Corner is for.
I
got this actually from you inspirationally because of the wonderful little sweepstakes that you had.
the giveaway, yeah.
Yeah, I think that it's important, all comedy aside, to talk about each other and try and help each other throughout all of this, because honestly, life is a lot of bullshit, and little do we talk about each other and trying to help each other along the way. So,
well, and that's like, I don't know, a big thing that I think that drives people away from each other. So like, and this isn't just hobby specific, but like you can see it in the hobby too. Like, there's a lot of like the term gatekeeping, like no girls allowed, or this has to look this way, or something like that. Like, people who try to protect sort of like their idea of what it should be. And then they exclude or exclude, you know, they leave people out of, you know, doing work together, creating art or something beautiful together. And they're looking for the differences, right? They're saying, you're doing this differently than I'm doing it. This looks different than what the box says, when we really, as people, should just be looking for, like, you know, don't look for the differences, look for the similarities. Like, what do you like that that person's doing? Bond over that. What do you see in their work that you wish you could work into yours? Like, bond over that. And if you start looking for like the similarities in other people and what they're doing, like, that just, you know, inherently like brings people closer together and spreads kindness, because you get excited about other people's work. They get excited about yours, and like, one hand washes the other. Like, it's fucking free to be nice to people. It's fucking free to be nice to yourself.
Yeah,
but like,
it sure is.
People seem to think that it's not. So that's my hard ass kindness corner.
No, that's very good. You know, it's important that we all take care of each other. And going back to that, I was going to make a comment earlier. Yes, you can paint by the box. I just think it's bullshit that GW puts these paints right here. I mean, it's good for starters, especially, but I think that a lot of people need to look outside of that GW box and maybe discover a little bit more.
Well, and like, I agree and I disagree. So like Games Workshop is a for-profit company. You know, they want to make money. Like, I mean, you say fuck them, you say fuck capitalism. Like, that's just, which is fine. But like people who paint like to that sort of like heavy metal standard, you know, like the Golden Demon standard, like, I respect the shit out of them.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like, last
not?
summer, I tried to paint something to the best of my ability, meaning like I tried to paint it like Golden Demon style, like perfect edge highlights, perfect blends, you know, make the eyes crisp, and I fucking hated it. I hated it. I don't like how it turned out.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm so glad that other people can make this look cool.
Yeah,
and I'm
me
glad
too.
they get excited about it, but I'm just going to like glue trash to a base and then like soak it in oil and then come back a week later and say, done.
Yeah, and it's not to say that I mean, everybody's an artist is in this hobby. Doesn't matter what you've done whatsoever. Whether you don't think it's stereotypically good or kid bashing or whatever else. I believe that everybody's an artist, but
True.
Art, like all things, it requires a certain eye from the beholder. And if you're not turned on to it, then you're just not turned on to it.
Sure.
It's just, I definitely respect a lot of those guys. I can think of Maniac? I don't know. I don't know that guy. Anyways, I'm not into that type of shit, but good for them.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and that's the thing. Like, that's also part of like being a cool guy in the hobby. Like you can be like, I don't like what you do, but I respect it. Like, I don't want to paint like that, but like, I'm glad you enjoy that. Like, you don't have to demonize them for it. You just don't have to fucking do it yourself. That's totally fine too.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we're coming down to the end of the show. Is there anything that you would like to promote?
I mean, I think I've done a decent job of hollering out some hobby homies. I'm just gonna go through my little mailing book right here. Let's see here.
Oh, look at that.
I hollered you. I hollered you.
Okay.
Let's see here. Red Star is one of the nicest people in the space. He does stuff with his kids. They help him paint. A genuine gem of a human. Let's see here. We got the Wires. We already mentioned them. I'd like to shout out to, just fucking everybody. I don't know. Go to my page. Who I follow. They're all sweet.
It's one of those things where you get the Oscar and then you're like, I'm trying to guess all these fucking people. And the Oscar being this show, because you're finally on the show and this show is very reputable and doing really good for itself. We asked you several trivia questions during this, and you got 2 out of 3. So you have won your Nana not being ransomed. She is no longer under a gun, and you can rest easy.
My brother called me like earlier when I lost connection.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah. Well, we have operatives. So, that's the reason why Barrett's not here this Thursday. That's the reason why they've allowed me to take over. We are trying to start a new Manson family. But that being said, thank you all for joining us very much. And we will put your page on the description and allow everybody to get that. But if you want to go ahead and name it now.
Yeah, my real only online presence is my Instagram account, which is COLECIFER_XXVIII, or 28 for the Romans out there. I'm part of the In Rust We Trust Discord, which is kind of the largest gathering of freaks that I know of. I'll plug the Hot Gun podcast again. Those are the, sort of the fellas behind the scenes of In Rust. If I haven't named you, it's not because I don't love you. It's just because
he's hateful.
This is like my. I'm not on podcast. I don't know what I'm doing, but
no, you've done great, and you're wonderful and very dapper.
Oh, thank you, Brandon. It's nice to have a conversation with a handsome man on the internet who doesn't want to take me out for ice cream.
I will take you out for only butter pecan. At the end of this episode, stay tuned because you're about to listen to a song known as Awake by GODSIZED Growing. They're returning from their 10-year anniversary, their last album, to have their second album, Journey Part 2, restored. Yes, folks, you heard it from us first. They have debuted today on this podcast. And it's specifically because of the following of this podcast. It's very high. It's very high. I want to mention that. But it's mostly to look at how degraded I can be during it. Since you're clearly a doctor, I know you have to get back to your practice.
Sure.
I appreciate your time, and we will see you next time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I was losing, I was lost. Life passed by as I watched until the music came and guided my way home. Alright, let's go! while you sleep? Are you comfortable living in dreams? Do you smile with each hour passed in slumber? In dreams I'm on stage, the floor melts away, the crowd chants my name. They say you're so incredible, but now it's time to wake up. I was losing, I was lost, like past by as I watched, until the music came and guided my way home. I was frantic, in a panic, now I'd have to do damage, because the music sparks the part of me that wants to show the world that now I'm awake. I finally see what it takes. If I scream loud enough, will you hear what I'm trying to say? If not, then bury your head under covers, bury your soul with the mind, bury yourself in that force-fed life you call your life. I was losing, I was lost, life passed by as I watched, until the music came and guided my way home. Guided my way home. I was frantic, in a panic, now I'd have to do damage, because the music sparks the part of me that wants to show the world that now I'm awake.
Hey, this is Josh from ATI Podcast. For show updates and news about the podcast, follow us on social media. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/ATI Podcast 22, on Twitter at podcast_ATI, on Instagram at the ATI Podcast, on TikTok at ATI Podcast. DMs are always welcome. Have a question for the show? You can always email us at atipodcastquestions@gmail.com. Stay safe out there.
This is Barrett from the ATI Podcast. Each week, Josh and I discuss current events, pop culture, music, TV, movies, politics, sports. Nothing is out of bounds. You can also tune in to learn about rising artists, small businesses. Whether it's music, graphic design, filmmaking, or even a brick-and-mortar mom-and-pop shop, we will be spotlighting folks and their endeavors. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Anchor, or anywhere you enjoy your podcasts. Just search ATI Podcast. We would like to thank you for your continued support, and as always, please stay safe out there.